There is nothing more exciting than joining Jesus in his mission. Imagine what it must have been like for the first disciples. Every day they woke up to a new day, anticipating what Jesus would do next. Would he heal someone today? Would he raise someone from the dead? Whose life would he change? What conversations will we have with him as we walk through the marketplace? Now, here's what I want you to understand. The adventure and the excitement that those first disciples experienced as they walked with Jesus day in and day out, you can experience as well. Every day, Jesus invites you to join him where he is at work, because he's always at work, my friends. He's at work in your neighborhood. He's at work at your school. He's at work where you go to work each day. And that's why it is so important that we learn how to pray with our eyes and our ears open. Remember, the time you set aside daily to spend time with God one-on-one is not the end goal. That is the beginning of a continual conversation with God throughout the day as you invite him into every aspect of your life and you pray with your eyes and ears open to everything that he's doing around you. Brother Lawrence, a monk who lived many years ago, once remarked, "There is not in the world a kind of life more sweet and delightful than that of a continual conversation with God." Now, I know for some of you, this idea of a continual conversation with God may be an entirely new aspect of prayer that you've never even considered. And you're probably wondering, what does this look like? Well, first of all, understand that this is not as difficult or as awkward as it may seem. So let me just give you a few basic insights as you begin developing this art of praying with your eyes and ears open. First of all, remember that prayer is a conversation with God, not a monologue where you do all the talking. As a matter of fact, prayer is as much about listening to God as it is about speaking to God. And when we talk about praying with our eyes and ears open, we're talking about that listening aspect of prayer. Also, remember this: God wants to talk to you. Now, for some reason, many Christians struggle with that idea. They somehow think that God wants to talk to their pastor or their neighbor, but he doesn't want to talk to them. Listen to what Isaiah said in Isaiah chapter 50, verse 4. "He awakens me morning by morning. He awakens my ears to listen as a disciple." Now, why would God awaken our ears to listen if he didn't have something to say to us? And also remember this: as you walk through the day, anticipate God. Expect him to speak to you, to direct your thoughts, to direct your steps, to reveal to you how he is working in people's lives. Most of us never encounter God each day because we're not expecting God to speak to us. Psalm 5:3, David said, "In the morning, Lord, you hear my voice. In the morning, I lay my request before you and wait expectantly." And then throughout the day, invite God into every conversation, into every meeting. As you walk down the street, take the train, drive to work, ask God to open your eyes to see what he sees. Now, this is where the adventure of joining Jesus each day becomes exciting. Think about it. Jesus already knows every conversation you will have that day. He already knows every meeting that you will be in. He already knows the people who will cross your path during the course of your day. And he's already going before you, preparing the way for you to join him in his mission. Now, once you fully grasp this, it'll change the way you face each day. I know it did for me. I remember the day that going to the grocery store became more than just going to the grocery store. It became more than just picking up a few items. It became about joining Jesus where he is at work in the lives of those people in the grocery store. And so let me just share with you a story to help you understand more fully what praying with our eyes and ears open really looks like. Because remember what I said earlier, joining Jesus every day is like a new mission trip. The story is told, and it's a true story, of a young man who went to a Bible study one Wednesday night at church, and his pastor was teaching on listening to God as he speaks into your life and obeying him. And as his pastor taught that night, he kept wondering to himself, does God really speak to people? So afterwards, he went out with some buddies. They had some coffee. And as they were talking, some of his friends began to share about how God had spoken to them in the past and ways he had directed their steps. And so as he got into his car that night to head home, he said, okay, God, if you still speak to people, speak to me. I am here. I want to hear you. And I will do my best to do whatever you tell me to do. And then he began driving home. And as he began driving home, going down the main street of his town, this thought came to his mind. Buy a gallon of milk. He asked himself, could this be God? He even said out loud, God, is this you? And he kept driving because initially God didn't say anything. But then again, he heard this voice in his mind, these words, buy a gallon of milk. So he decided this must be God. He didn't want to miss God. So he pulled over, bought a gallon of milk, and thought to himself, if I'm mistaken, I can still use the milk. So he had the gallon of milk, started heading home. And about that time, he had this thought come to his mind. Turn down 7th Street. He's thinking, oh, this is crazy. So he just kept going. But then again, he heard, turn down 7th Street. So he turned around at the next intersection, turned down 7th Street. As he rode down 7th Street, all of a sudden, this urge to stop. So he stopped. He pulled over to the curb. It was a semi-commercial area of town, not the best neighborhood, not the worst neighborhood. All the houses were dark. He assumed that probably everyone had gone to sleep. And about that time, as he was sitting in the car trying to figure out what to do next, he heard this voice, this still small voice that said, take the milk to the people across the street. Man, he thought to himself, man, this is crazy. This is insane. Man, if I go across the street and wake them up, they're going to think I'm stupid. They're going to be mad. And so he was about to get out of his car, and then he got back in his car, and then eventually he got back out of his car, and he went across the street because he said, okay, God, if this is you, I will obey, even if I look like an idiot. So he goes to the door. He knocks on the door. The house is dark. He's thinking, these people aren't even home. And if they are, they're asleep. Well, he hears some noise as a man begins yelling. Who is it? What do you want? And as he's just about to leave because of fear, the man opens the door. There he is in his T-shirt, his jeans, looking like he just got out of bed, kind of disturbed about the fact there's this young, strange guy standing on his doorstep. And about that time, the young man just takes the gallon of milk and says, here, sir, I brought this to you. The man takes the milk, runs down the hallway, yelling loudly in Spanish to his wife, who then becomes coming down the hall with the milk in hand to go to the kitchen while he holds a baby who's crying. And as he's holding the baby, tears are streaming down his face, and he looks at the young man, and this is what he said. He said, we were just praying, asking God to show us how to get some milk because we've had some large bills this month, and we ran out of money. Didn't have any money to buy food or milk for the baby. And we were just asking God, God, show us what we need to do. His wife yelled from the kitchen, I asked God to send an angel. Are you an angel? About that time, the young man, who was beginning to have some tears in his own eyes, took out his wallet, got what little bit of cash he had left, gave it to the man, walked away, got in the car, tears streaming down his face. And on that day, he came to understand God still speaks. When you begin to pray with eyes and ears open, God will begin doing some amazing things in your life. He will begin prompting you to engage in conversations. He will lead you to pray with people. And he may even tell you to go buy a gallon of milk.